We started all putting loads and loads and loads of pressure on ourselves to just like do better, like get more views, like just show people like what we're about. And we got lost, and I genuinely feel like we just all got lost. Like we weren't putting out our personalities. People weren't knowing us. People were knowing us as these stuck up people online, and that's not what we want to be known for.
Back in 2020, when TikTok started to get really popular because all of us had way too much time on our hands, one group of UK TikTokers decided to get together to create the first UK TikTok house. This house was called the Wave House. It was pretty wild. If you're on TikTok, you probably came across their videos because they actually did get very popular very fast. Most of their videos got tens of millions of views. They started their account revealing who was in the house, and one of these videos got nearly 60 million views. It gained 3 million followers in just under a month, but as quickly as they rose to fame, in just a few months they disappeared, and now they haven't been heard from in years. The end of the Wave House was really sudden, with the members filming exit videos, and everyone was really confused, like what has happened to them? But now it's been a couple of years since the house was formed. A few members have started to spill the tea on what really happened and why the Wave House ended, although it's not actually very clear. From their very first video, they received a lot of negative attention, and I don't know if all publicity is good publicity, because the comments were pretty rude. To be honest, in general, I feel like TikTok comments can be a bit more mean and harsh than on the other social medias, although Instagram Reels I feel like is the absolute worst. But even at the start, the account had a lot of negative comments, partially because a few of the creators in the house came from wealth, with one influencer, Kate Elizabeth, blowing up on YouTube from her day in the life at a private boarding school video series, which when you combined it with how nice the house was and some videos like this.
As the Queen once said, who the friggity frack are you?
I'm Millie and I have a minor addiction to plastic surgery.
Major.
Too real cheap for that!
Online I might seem like a massive troll, but in person, I'm just a big softie.
I'm known for going to the most expensive boys' school in England.
Cringe.
It was sharp chap.
Plus the fact that they've got a super high production budget, it just rubbed some people the wrong way, and quite a few people seem to find the videos arrogant and out of touch. The house ultimately only ended up lasting for 3 months.
I'm moving out. Expecting this, but at the same time we weren't expecting it at all. I know in one of my first vlogs I was like, oh, we're gonna be here for the 3 months. Turns out we were gonna be here for 6 months, and now that's been cut to 3 months again. So yeah, personally I don't actually know myself why this has happened, because there's a lot of issues within the system. Sometimes we don't get told stuff, and that's the motherfucking tea.
Which made everyone shocked, because 3 months is not a very long time at all, and with 3 million followers, it seemed like the account was doing pretty well. It was also really weird because a few of the people revealed in their exit videos that they posted on YouTube, they weren't even sure why they were leaving, and it seemed like they'd just been asked to move out for pretty much no reason.
So if you're watching this video, it means one thing and one thing only. I'm currently sat in the milk bathroom where I did my mask reveal, and yeah, I just can't believe it's like come to an end. Like, it's really upsetting. I don't know what to say. Above us is somebody who literally told us you have a week to film your exit videos. We aren't going to be telling you absolutely anything for 2 to 3 weeks. Like right now, even when this is out, I'm not going to know what's going on.
On TikTok, Eloise revealed that the house actually came about because of an idea that her and Jimbo had, which they presented to their management company.
Came about in lockdown because we were like deepening the fact that there was basically no influencer houses in the UK. Basically, the US were just doing it way better. All their influencer houses were in mansions. So we were like, okay, we have to like take matters into our own hands. And Jimbo came up with the whole idea of basically doing mask reveals, which is what you guys saw, which was bathing in milk, etc. But we were like, we cannot do this by ourselves. We were like 20-year-olds with barely any money. We're like, how the hell are we going to pull something like this off? I was like, you know what? I have the best idea ever. I'm gonna ask my management company if they'd be on board for this like idea. Within literally a few hours of me asking, I got a call back from the CEO of the management company saying that they would be so down and that we needed to find a mansion ASAP. So we weren't prepared for how viral it was actually going to go. We thought maybe like 100k, 200k here and there. 60 million my milk bath got. 60 million. We gained 2 million followers in a week. We were not expecting that. Of course we weren't. Like, why the hell would we go into that thinking that that was going to happen? Obviously not. A world of hate. The amount of hate that I received was nothing that a normal human being could take. BBC, Vice, The Independent, they all started reaching out, asking to basically come around and interview us for media outlets, TV shows. Everything was going fine, like the BBC and The Independent, their interviews were literally totally fine until we came across Vice. And as I said, this is where things take an extremely sour turn. I personally felt like when the lady came in to do the Vice interview, she already had a motive of how she wanted us to be painted out. She didn't really have an open mind.
And when she says the Vice interview wasn't positive, that's a huge understatement. It's clear the interviewer was not a fan of the people in the house, and it did not show them in a positive light at all. Going in about questions about the privilege of the house, especially at a time when people didn't have much money.
Cringe, but I'm kind of making history.
And then, even though it seemed like the views were doing really well, they were starting to receive backlash, and this was compounded when Vice interviewed them, and their interview was pretty scathing. It made them come across as a bunch of arrogant rich kids that were pretty stuck up, and it did not shine them in a very positive light at all.
What do you guys think of all the people that are calling you Tories?
People love to like comment on TikTok and get a top comment with loads of likes. It's just kind of how it is.
Because obviously you guys are now in quite a position of privilege, like you're all making a lot of money out of the internet, and you do have these big followings. You're living in a massive house that someone else is paying for. It's like, it's just, you can see why some people would find it a bit questionable to then kind of make fun of people from a different background or that are struggling financially.
Well, we haven't really done that.
Most people just swipe past and they just look at us, who we are on surface level, and that's it.
A lot of people have lost their jobs, some people have lost their homes. How do you feel about kind of coming in and like filming all this content in a mansion?
In our vlogs and stuff like that, we're like, guys, this is actually unbelievable. Like, can you believe this is happening? What the?
That the house and all of the major costs and production for the videos were paid for by the management company. You can tell just by looking at it that this house wouldn't have been cheap, and it wasn't, because they revealed it cost £35,000 a month.
Like, there was a lot of money being put into it. What was the rent for this place? Like, how much was the rent for it? Do you know?
Oh my god, it was like, I think 35k a month.
35,000, that's crazy. But to be fair, if you think of it from the management point of view, I suppose how much money would they be having to bring in? When you factor in that there's about 6 people in there, they have a chef. These videos were pretty high quality and don't look cheap to produce. At first, all of the members were really secretive about why the house ended, until one member, Millie, revealed that this was due to them having to sign an NDA.
In order to break even just on the rent, you're going to have to be bringing in like 120, 130,000 pounds worth of brand deals every single month. The management then take their cut. 25%. But at the same time, I did also hear that you guys went and signed some of the most foul contracts.
I actually didn't sign one of the contracts because I read it through and I sent it to a lawyer and it was really bait. So I was like, I'm going to see how long I can get away with not signing it. And they kept asking, I just didn't sign it. And I was going to sign it, but I was waiting for my like trust to like be back there, and then I'd sign it and be like, okay, calm. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And I was like, I'm not signing this. And I think the contracts were quite bait. It's like, if you speak anything bad about us, we'll sue you, we'll do this, we'll do that. Like, they had just had a lot of rules. It was very
curfew and stuff like that. I feel like
they didn't have a problem with us coming back at any time. Like, we could come back at 3 a.m. but like we couldn't be too loud, like to wake Vicky up. And the house manager that was living with us, like, we had to stay quiet. It's like we kind of felt bad for coming back late because we had to be up at 9 a.m. no matter what. So like we kind of had to like just do the curfews ourselves.
Meaning that she was a bit more free to talk about what happened in the house. But now that it's been a couple of years, the others are also starting to come out with their stories. Although from their TikTok, it seemed like living in the house would basically be a dream life. Their rooms were huge, the bathroom was huge, the house had a swimming pool, it had all the amenities you could ever want. It looked like the perfect lifestyle. But Millie revealed that actually it was super strict and didn't sound like very much fun at all to live in. For example, they couldn't even stay out late because they had to be up at 9 a.m. every morning to film content, and would often be filming until 7 p.m. in the evening. And it was so strict that the management even made friends and family present ID and sign an NDA just to gain entry to the house, which seems pretty crazy. Like that's so business. And I think that kind of came across in the TikTok, and it just felt so ingenuine, and that's probably why it didn't do as well as it could have done and didn't reach its potential.
I feel like it was like an act. It was like a scene in a play or something like that. When you're doing something over and over again that's not you, it starts to affect you, and it was affecting absolutely everyone. And I think we all just got really sad. Like, we just weren't the same anymore. We weren't the same people that went in there ready to be a content house. Like,
and if our friends and family did want to come and visit us, then they had to sign an NDA to enter the house. And on top of that, after the NDA was signed, you also had to upload documentation. So whether that be your ID or your passport, to basically say that you've been in the house, meaning that it was extremely hard for basically our friends and family to come and see us.
Piecing together all of these comments that the Wave House members have said about the management, especially when you think about the fact that they have an NDA, makes me wonder if the management was responsible for the downfall of the house.
Completely. Like, and the management were just supposed to they kind of let us do our thing and support us financially in terms of the house. But the problem was when the management saw the numbers and everything that was happening, and they got too involved and they wanted to kind of control. They became very without meaning to be very controlling. We had a strict schedule at the house. We'd get up at 9 a.m. go downstairs, go straight to a meeting. We'd have a meeting for an hour, planning the day, and we'd schedule everything. Then they'd be like, hey, today we're going to film 3 TikToks, going to film this YouTube video, we're going to do this.
It's clear that the management had investors and poured a lot of money into the TikTok account, but they seemed very focused on money and less on the actual vibe, which I think is quite important. But it wasn't just management problems that led to the downfall of the Wave House, but things like safety concerns as well. Eloise revealed that someone even ended up breaking into the house after their address was leaked, meaning that anyone could type in Wave House and figure out where they lived. People were posting pictures of inside of their bedrooms, which suggests that people were sneaking onto the property, which kind of wasn't safe.
You received this in the post from Google that says the Wave House lol get F. This is basically saying that our address was on Google. So if you typed in the Wave House onto Uber, or if you typed it into Google, you could come straight to our house. And a few days later, we received a comment on one of our social media platforms basically saying all our video ideas that we had ever planned. At the time, we didn't deep it too much. We were just kind of thinking that's really weird, but the ideas were so specific. If you watch the Wave House videos, you know that we would basically do the weirdest and craziest videos that you could possibly think of. And this comment literally said every single one of them. You can literally see the whole fucking board from here. Basically write down every possible video idea that we had on this whiteboard, and the whiteboard you could see through a window, meaning that if you piece everything together, taking into consideration our address was leaked, it means that somebody broke into the property, read the whole whiteboard, and basically leaked it online, which is a scary prospect. And for a few days in the evening, if we sat in the living room or the office space in the Wave House, sometimes somebody would flash a torch into our house. And because opposite the house was fields and bushes, we had no idea if someone was basically hiding in the bushes, flashing this light in. We basically had no idea. Members of the Wave House would get filmed in their bedrooms. So the safety of actually living in the house was one of the reasons that we ended up all leaving, but not the main reason.
So ultimately, after only 3 months, season 1 of the Wave House closed down, and then they did this weird revamp where they announced season 2, and 2 of the members, Eloise and Jimbo, actually came back.
That's the second time round. One thing that I don't think a lot of people know is that me and Jimbo are basically co-founders of the Wave House. Actually, because people just think, oh, we got invited back and everything like that. That wasn't the case. Me and Jimbo were involved in the whole casting process of the second Wave House. We were involved in helping pick the house. We wanted the old members in the house with us. However, that didn't turn out the way that it did.
It's not super clear why the others didn't return, but I think part of it had to do with them getting into a little bit of a fight, reading between the lines.
Management company that I actually did the Wave House with, I did end up leaving pretty much as soon as the house ended. Because of everything that happened and took place in the house, I just thought it was best to part ways. Most asked questions is if we still all stayed friends. And I can confirm that the majority of us are still close. It's called trauma bonding. Close with Millie and Kami and obviously Jimbo.
Although the first house closed down after only 3 months, it did manage to get 3 million followers and a lot of engagement, even though most of it was negative. But with the second house, I think it was a bit overdone and no one was really that bothered. They kind of keep it quite secretive, but another reason for the downfall seems to be the fact that the house became a bit toxic, and it sounds like there was starting to be fights between members because all of them were friends in the first place. But whether it was the strict schedules or some of them have said the amount of pressure meant that they stopped having as much fun, and it sounded like it started to become a little bit toxic.
We've basically been kicked out of the house.
Yeah, well,
seriously? Yeah, that's all of us
kicked out of the house.
It's not that we ran out of money or anything like that. That wasn't the case. It was becoming a toxic environment. I think sometimes you have to take yourself out of toxic environments like that, and that's exactly what we did.
So ultimately, it seems like there was a few factors that led to the downfall of the Wave House. From the negative criticism that they were getting, the toxic environment, and then safety concerns. But overall, it was probably a lot due to the fact that the management weren't getting the returns that they wanted, and it probably wasn't as profitable as they'd hoped. Because it sounds like management was the ones funding this whole thing, which makes me think that it was just not gaining as much money as they'd have hoped for, and it was very expensive to upkeep. When Vice interviewed the management company, it's clear that it's a business with investors who expect a return on their money.
Who's paying for this and how?
The company, we've been doing well and growing, so we just use our capital to invest in a project, and obviously it's like a big risk, but fortunately it will pay off, hopefully.
Otherwise, I think it's interesting that Millie mentioned that they quit, and it makes me wonder if there was a huge fallout with management that they can't discuss. Maybe the cut that management took from the brand deals and the like meant that the influencers weren't getting as much money as they'd hoped. Or maybe it was because the rules were so strict that they just weren't having fun in the house, and it led to a toxic environment. So after all of this, I wonder what the future of content houses will be, because the record so far for pretty much for all content houses has not been great, and it always seems to end pretty negatively. Let me know if you watched The Wave House when it came out in 2020 and were bored in the house and in the house bored, or if you have never heard of this house before.